Welcome back, guys. Well, not really welcome back. This is something new I wanted to try. So this is going to be a once-a-week thing where I, Travers, bring you the news. Quick disclaimer, all of the views here are mine and mine alone and not shared by any of the other guys. But figured I'd say that. Even if they do agree with me, I don't want you guys attacking them. Well, let's jump in. Friday, January 20th, Donald Trump, or in some circles, he who shall not be named, was officially sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. Now, he's been president for 2 weeks. Let's see how it's gone so far. The start would be his first day. Estimates for Trump's inauguration was anywhere between 250 to 750,000 individuals, which would put him on par or above the last 3 Republican inaugurations. But Donald has a much different number of 1.5 million individuals. Now, Trump here reminds me of a guy at a party. We all know the guy. The guy who always brags about the size of his dick, saying it's 9 inches, but then you get back to his place, it's something like, it'll be proportional to the size of his tiny hands. Yeah. But Trump's numbers were pretty good if you don't take into account the protests in countless cities, such as Washington, Philadelphia, and New York. The fact that there was 50 Democrats who boycotted the event. The beginning of Trump's presidency kind of reminds me of when I try to cook. I say everything's fine, but, well, the fire department's here and they're putting out a fire. Well, it couldn't have been all bad, right? Well, President Trump signed his first executive order which allowed federal agencies to begin to scale back Obamacare, just the parts they deemed costly. Now, to some Republicans, this could be seen as a major victory. But to some Democrats and even a few Republicans, a certain REM song might be a bit better. The second day of Trump's presidency saw millions of men and women take to the streets in marches for women's rights and various other causes. These marches took places on all 7 continents, yes, even Antarctica, or better known as March of the Penguins 2, women's rights. Now, all joking aside, this day will probably go down in history because, well, they were very peaceful protests, and also there was a lot of celebrities who went out to these marches. You know, celebrities coming out for a good cause, or in this case, just being a decent human being, you know. On Trump's first Sunday in office, Kellyanne Conway on Meet the Press came out and said that the White House has released alternative facts to, you know, what everybody's been saying is fact. So, one could say these alternative facts are lies? But, nah. These alternative facts don't really have much weight because they've been about the size of Trump's inauguration or the weather during the event. But if they're willing to put something out about something so small, it kind of makes you wonder what other alternative facts they're going to try and release. But you know what? I'm going to give them a try because they sound really fun. So ready? Okay? Travers is the sexiest man alive, and anyone who disagrees is a communist. Taking a step away from Trump for just a minute, 2016 went down on record as the hottest year. The last time we broke that record was 2015, then before that in 2014. Now, this is kind of like breaking your own record for the most new STIs you can get in a year. Congrats, you did it, but you kind of gotta wonder, how long do you got? Now, this is a very dangerous trend to be following, and I personally don't think it will get any better, especially as climate change deniers are gaining positions of power. But, you know, it's not like we elected a climate change denier as president of the free world. Oh, yeah. Also this week, bees. Yeah, bees were added to the endangered species list. Now, no one's really talking about this, even though bees were a meme about a month ago. Yeah, it's kind of funny. On Trump's first day in office, he pulled the United States out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the TPP for short. So like his move to repeal Obamacare, he's making good on some of his campaign promises because the TPP is something he very highly criticized during the campaign. Now, what does this really mean for America? Well, in the short run, not too much, as the TPP was meant to try and bring all the trade agreements from the different nations under one umbrella, just to make it easier to settle trade disputes. But this does create a vacuum in the Asian trade market, which many believe China is going to go and try and fill. So by pulling the United States out, he might have strengthened one of his biggest critics, China. Now, he is also expected to meet with Canadian and Mexican officials to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Association, or NAFTA for short. Now, this is another deal he was very critical of, and, it makes sense that he would try. Trump also put a freeze on government hirings in every branch that isn't of defense. He also put a freeze on new regulations that haven't gone into effect yet. So he's kind of freezing the government from doing anything from the end of Obama's term. He also reinstituted the Mexico City policy, something which dated back to Reagan. And this policy cuts funding for non-governmental agencies internationally that perform or talk about abortions. Now, in response to this, several countries have come and said that they are going to try and fill the gap that America is leaving. But this is also a policy that has been reenacted and retracted by the past several presidents. So Clinton pulled it away, Bush put it back, Obama pulled it away, Trump's putting it back. So this is going to be a cycle we're stuck in probably until the end of the United States or the end of time, whichever comes first. I just want to put in a little bit of good news. Our next story brings us to Italy. So on January 18th, there was a severe earthquake which ended up causing avalanches, trapping 38 guests in a hotel. As of recording this, 9 people have been rescued, 7 have been found dead, and 22 are still missing. But the Monday after Trump's inauguration, there was a spark of hope because they found some adorable puppies. I mean, look at them. They're so cute. I want 3. I want all of them. I want literally all of them. But now, what does this really mean? Well, it's kind of hope, because if these puppies were able to survive, it means the rest of the people might have been able to survive. But the workers do realize they're still on a ticking clock. Remember those alternative facts I was talking about just a few minutes ago? Well, they're kind of back, but this I'm going to more call sore winning. Now, Trump said that he would have won the popular vote if it wasn't for 3 to 5 million illegal votes in favor of his opponent, Hillary Clinton, who won the popular vote by just over 3 million votes. Now, there were 4 documented cases of voter fraud in the 2016 election. So in order to get to Trump's numbers, you gotta have 1 million fly under the radar, which is very, very unlikely. But, okay, he's saying there's a large-scale voter fraud problem. He's at least going to start an investigation into it. Good. That's not wasting time. Do you know who he's blaming for this problem? Illegal immigrants. Because it's him. Of course he is. Because he would never be content with just winning. Now listen, Donald. I know it hurt your pride to lose the popular vote. But guess what? You got the presidency. And you're also breaking the #1 rule of 2017. You don't talk about 2016. To the United Kingdom now, where the Supreme Court ruled in favor of having the government have to give the okay for Brexit. Now, for those of you who don't remember, last June, the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union, or better known as Brexit, meaning British exit. Now, since then, they have not yet triggered Article 50, which they wanted to do in March. But there's been this case of whether or not the Parliament has to give the okay. So with this, Parliament does have to give the okay. It's really mean. It's not going to stop Brexit. Parliament's not going to fall on their sword and stop Brexit. But it allows them to put in some amendments to the Brexit negotiation saying this has to get done. Now, as of recording this, Parliament has given the okay. Brexit's going through. And there's no turning back. Now let's move on to China, because it promised to secure its hold over the South China Sea. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, China has been building man-made islands in order to try and secure this region for their own. These islands have been very controversial in the fact that many people see them as illegal. The United States has also said these are not okay. But China's still going ahead with them, and just in the region. Now, I kind of see this as China wanting the proverbial bear that is Donald Trump. Because during the campaign trail, he was very critical of China. In the past, he's been very critical of China, saying that they created global warming. But we're not going to go into that. So, right now, we're looking at a nuclear pissing contest that could end with the end of the world. But, optimism, right? Right? On Trump's second day in office, he reopened negotiations for the North Dakota Access Pipeline and the Keystone XL Pipeline. Now, to many, the debate has always come down to creating jobs versus protecting the environment. But, in all fairness, neither one is that significant, because the environmental impact would be very small, and it's also safer to transport oil via pipelines than trucks, trains, or boats. So these have served more as a symbol for the two sides of the debate. So by Trump reopening negotiations, he's saying he's going to be more business and less environmentally friendly. Now, this is echoing off of his meetings earlier in the week, where he said that he wants to cut 75% of the regulations that have been placed on business. Again, making him very pro-business instead of pro-environment. We're now moving on to Trump's favorite battlegrounds. No, not the debate stage. Twitter. Yes. Because there's some rogue accounts. Since the Trump presidency, more than a dozen agencies have made rogue accounts that aren't official. Now, granted, they are said to be run by people who have worked or have worked for these agencies, but these can't be verified because, well, if they give up their Twitter or if they give up their email, Trump will crack down on them. But there's a dozen of them. So, I'm pitching an idea right here. It's Rogue Accounts, a Star Wars story. It's just like Rogue One, but instead of stealing the Death Star plans to save the galaxy from an evil tyrant, we're stealing Twitter to save the world from a Cheeto. Just think about it. You know what? Just for a bit of good news, children are now returning back to school in eastern Mosul. Now, for the past few months, the Iraqi army has been leading a campaign to retake the city of Mosul, which was an IS stronghold. Now, why is it good news that children are returning to school? Well, children are returning to school, they're getting their education. But it's also not just the boys who are returning, and it's the girls as well. This is also kind of hope that, like, IS will be crushed within the next several months to year. So, Donald Trump might still get credit for beating ISIS. Or IS. Shit. Well, let's talk about Trump's biggest campaign promise, the wall, and cracking down on illegal immigration. Now, some people thought he wasn't actually going to try and build a wall. He's trying to actually build a wall. And who's going to pay for it? Mexico! They're not going to pay for it? And who's paying for it? The American people? No, there'd be riots. Wait. Oh, that's how he's paying for it. This is how Mexico's paying for it. There will be a 20% import tax on all goods coming from Mexico. So, Mexico's still kind of paying for it, but Americans are paying for it because it's going to Americans, so the goods will be more expensive by 20%. So, be expecting your goods to go up. He also now cut funding to sanctuary cities. Now, sanctuary cities are places where people without documentations can still live and work. He also increased border patrol by assigning 5,000 new men and women, and also hired 10,000 new customs enforcement agents to carry out deportations across the country. This wall and the potential tariff. The Mexican president has said that he is not going to meet with Donald Trump. Now, this is probably just a sign of strength, saying we don't really need America, blah, blah, blah. But it's a sign he needed to make, and also, he doesn't want his people to be hurt by Donald Trump's wall. He wants to be a good leader. Just when you thought Trump couldn't get any more controversial, he manages to top it by placing a temporary ban on immigration and refugees to the United States. Now, these are only from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, and that's why most media organizations are calling it a, quote, Muslim ban, when in fact it's more like an immigration ban, because he's saying it's not just because of the Muslims. Now, in my opinion, this is very un-American, because America is a nation that has always prided itself on being a mix of nationalities and cultures, and very accepting. Now, sure, we have turned people away. There was an example in 1939 when 1,000 Jews were turned away and sent back to Germany during the height of the Nazi power. Yes, we accidentally sent Jews back to Germany. Now, many people from around the world have come out against this, including the Canadian Prime Minister, who said that the doors to Canada are always open. Now, it's not just me, but I kind of want to give them the Statue of Liberty because they're the ones that are taking people in. They're doing America's job of taking people in. Now, because of this ban, there was a petition for the UK government to cancel a state dinner with Donald Trump. This got over 1 million signatures. But Theresa May said that's not going to happen because it would just undo all the work she's already done with him. Now, okay, fine. But this also led to protests with this Scottish man. Let's talk about Scotland and Trump for just a minute, because they don't have the best history. With him blocking out people's views to the ocean with his golf course, his Brexit comments, where he said that he's happy that Scotland decided to take back their country, even though they overwhelmingly voted to stay in the EU. Let's go back to Canada for just a second. Because there was a deadly shooting in a mosque in Canada. Now, the best part about being a once-a-week show is I get to find out the facts before I give them to you. So, if this was a daily show, I might have accidentally and unknowingly said that the man was a Syrian refugee or of Moroccan descent, which was 2 things that the media has said. But instead of saying that he is a white Trump supporter. Now, the problem with this is people are so happy to get out a story and not want to update it. Now, Fox News didn't provide an update to their story until the Canadian Prime Minister called them out on it. You shouldn't need a government official to call you out and be like, yo, fix it before you fix it. That's just good journalism to update your stories as more information comes in. Now, let's jump across the pond again to Ireland. They are the first country to, well, they're on track to be the first country to fully divest from fossil fuels. So the country who accidentally made drugs legal for a day back in 2015, and I mean all drugs like ecstasy, heroin, is managing to divest faster and better than a businessman who is now leading the United States. Back to the ban real quick, because it's very important. The acting Attorney General, Sally Yates, told the Justice Department not to enforce this ban because she said it was unconstitutional. Okay. Now, because of this, Trump fired her. And he got the last laugh of this. But attorney generals from several other states have moved in a suit saying that this is unconstitutional of this ban. So he kind of got the last laugh with Sally, but overall he's not getting the last laugh. Now, let's talk about freedom of speech for just a minute. Because on Wednesday, UC Berkeley was expected to have Milo Yiannopoulos, probably way mispronouncing his name, have a talk. Now he is a right wing and many people don't support him. Many people aren't with Mr. Yiannopoulos. The protests before were peaceful until, according to the university, 150 masked individuals started throwing Molotov cocktails and then riots. People were punched, people were attacked, assaulted, property was destroyed, and it caused $100,000 worth of damages. God, that's like a student's tuition. Just one. Not like three. Just one. Probably. Because yeah. But in response to this, Trump says that he wants to cut off federal aid to UC Berkeley because they were anti-free speech. Even though they organized this event, they condemned the violence, they arrested the individuals who caused the violence, and so I don't see why they're anti-free speech